I don't have any playouts. It's live. Okay. I'm going to do a little announcement, and then you'll play for a little bit.
Okay.
Not super long, 30 seconds or a minute or whatever.
Okay.
And then
What do you want me to play?
whatever, improv, just whatever you feel like.
Okay.
whatever this is making you feel. All right. You want to roll down so I can roll this up? All right. Thanks everybody for coming out again, testing some stuff, hanging out. We're going to get started on the clinic portion of this. I'm going to have my dad open up some playing, and then we'll get to some questions, and then at the end, there'll be a little bit of Q&A.
Oh, I forgot that one. We didn't use that one. Anyway, thanks for coming, everybody. I mean, I didn't really come here to, jack off or anything on the guitar. But, if anybody has any questions or want to talk about some tone pack stuff, I don't know. Anybody need to know anything?
Well, we're doing that at the end.
Oh, okay.
I got some questions for you first.
See, that's why I keep him around.
Got a little more structure, hopefully, than just willy-nilly.
I'd probably be in my pajamas right now if it wasn't for him. So,
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. I love that. I'm happy to be here. So.
Yeah. Well, I know this, but I'm not sure that everybody else does. But you came from a pretty big family, lots of siblings. Do you remember your earliest exposure or influence to just music in general?
Well, yeah, my dad was a doctor. He worked for the Navy, did medical research for the Navy, and but he was an amateur piano player. But he was quite good. He was way into the classical music, and he was into Miles, and he was into jazz and classical music. So he made us play, sing, and we all took piano lessons. And then as I got a little bit older, I was in second grade, and I went to an assembly, and there was a kid there that was in fifth grade that had a red electric guitar with a curly cord. And I saw that, and I went, that's what I want to do. I mean, it was the weirdest thing. I was in second grade. I said, that's what I want to be, and that's who I want to be. It was the weirdest thing. I was, I'd been into music, singing and stuff, but we were singing, Fox went out on a chilly night, reached the town. I mean, that's the stuff we were doing, so. So I heard this kid playing rock guitar, and I went, that's what I want to do. So I begged my mom and dad for months and months. I want to get this electric guitar. And we had one of those Allied Electronic catalogs. I used to leaf through that thing and just look at all the instruments, man. It was just, it was like the Sears catalog. Of course, this was like, 60 years ago. So I don't think they have anything like that anymore. But anyhow, finally, they relented, and I remember I saw the truck delivering the guitar, and I knew it was the guitar, but I had to go to school. So it was like torturous the whole day. And then I finally got home, and they had opened it up and surprised me with it. It had a little amp. It came with an amp, Electrolab amp. And that thing sounded pretty good. If you cranked it up all the way, it sounded pretty damn good. So, it had 4 pickups, Paul. It was great. Yeah. And my sister ended up pouring water on it because a friend of hers was playing it one day. I think she liked him. she poured some water on it, and the neck ended up warping so badly it was useless. So I ended up getting another guitar. But that's kind of how I started out with guitar, and and then kind of just kept going with it. I mean, it was I just couldn't stop. And then I drove my siblings insane practicing guitar in front of the television and stuff without an amp, just kind of used to drive them completely insane. But, and then I got kind of, went through listening to not Coltrane, Hendrix. I listened to a lot of Hendrix and Cream and all that stuff. And then I kind of, as I started playing, I had a couple bands when I was a kid, but then when I was in high school, I kind of started writing my own music, and then I became a jazz snob. So I would only listen to, Coltrane and McCoy Tyner and, stuff like that, just kind of in Miles, So I got into that for a while, but that didn't pay the bills very well. So, and then one day I ended up meeting Huey. It just got put together with my next door neighbor, and I mean, I had been working in a lot of other bands before that. Of course, I played with a guy named Merle Saunders, who was an organist. He used to play with Jerry Garcia. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but anyway, yeah. But he had a band called it was the Jerry Garcia band, but they had a couple of other iterations. I think the Legion of Mary they called it or something. Anyway, he would play with Merle Saunders. He was a black kind of soul jazz organist, and he kind of took me under his wing when I was about 17 years old, and then that was when that was my first real gig. That was an actual gig where I got paid, and we made a record, and I was 18 years old, so I thought I had made it big, It was like, wow, this is it. I hit the big time, man. But it was jazz music, so the shows were, we'd have 30 people at the show and stuff, So
at those early shows and with Merle, were there considerations you were making gear-wise and part-wise because of the kind of arrangements that were there with like horns and keys?
No,
or were they kind of pre-established?
Well, I've never really been a real gearhead myself. I'm kind of I just kind of like, give me an amp, plug it in, maybe a little bit of reverb, crank it up if I want it to get dirty. I mean, I that's kind of always, that's probably the thing that I know least about, and wish that I knew more about, that I was more into gear, because I don't have the patience for it. But some people do, and I admire people who do. And like a lot of times I can only go so deep on the gear, because I'm kind of impatient that way. So subsequently, my style was kind of not super processed really until I got to, recording. And a lot of that stuff was done post too. I mean, some of it was printed, but not much of it. A lot of it was done in post, like all the compression and all the lexicon reverbs and all that stuff was all done post. I mean, we'd monitor it when we were recording, because I always wanted a lot of reverb. It's like, I don't want to hear what I'm playing. I want it to be wetter than hell. This is not like a country guy where you want to hear every single note. You want it super compressed, and you don't want any reverb on it. I can't play like that. It's like heroin or something. I gotta have it.
Reverb it's habit forming.
It is very habit forming. So and they would always have. I would like monitor that stuff super wet. And the guys would be like, oh, man, it's like so wet, I can hardly hear. And then of course it would all come off. Post. So. Most of it, although, some of it went back on. But.
When you were playing live and touring at that time, were you running pretty wet sounds live, or was it pretty dry?
Well, I started to, but it's not really good to have that stuff going through the microphones, So what I tried to do is just have a monitor with effects on it on stage that wasn't mic'd, that I could hear, and then the actual signal that was going out of the house would be dry. And then at one point, I did a lot of different things. I mean, at one point I had I had like my amps in a box. I had 3 amps in a box. I'd have a Marshall, and then like a Vibroverb, or a Deluxe, a black-face Deluxe, and a little 50-watt, the JCM 800, 4010, 4010 or whatever they are.
The 50-watt,
it's like a 50-watt
112.
112 combo through a 412 cabinet with instead of the 100-watt head, because the 100-watt head was just too loud, and but I did have the stuff in a box at one point, but that got kind of like where it wasn't really working very well. So I ended up, but yeah, that stuff came off the stage dry, and then they'd put some effects on sometimes out in the house.
Yeah.
But and then I would monitor. I would have my own monitor and it would be just filled with all kinds of whatever junk I wanted to put on it. Mostly, lexicon and stuff. So.
How was the transition coming from playing with a live jazz unit to a more, kind of like a new wave-ish rock band? How was that, both musically and show-wise?
Well, I started playing like this, so, and then Huey kind of got me out of my shell and said, "Hey, man, you got to cut your hair and you got to bring your head up." And I credit Huey for, he made us all get out there and do shapes, but I really took it to heart because I'm a doer and I like to do things, and if somebody tells me to do something, I'm going to overdo it. You know what I mean? It's like I'm going for that. So I started jumping off speakers and I was running all over the place, and I wasn't really caring about what I was playing so much, but I managed to get it done. But I was mostly into throwing shapes. I mean, that's what we were doing. We were putting on a show. It's like when you're in a basketball arena, you got to put on a show.
What was your favorite shape to throw? That's a good question.
I used to like to go run up to the monitor and jump and do spread my legs out like that.
Yeah.
And then land on 2 feet. I only fell down once or twice. I think maybe twice. But I managed to keep my cat-like reflexes. You
didn't break any guitars falling off?
I haven't broken any bones yet, and I only broke one guitar. I had a 68 Les Paul, a black custom, because our lighting guy, we were on the road, and he knocked my 68 Gold Top over and broke the headstock. Gibsons, right? They just go snap, he knocked it down the ground and broke it, and then he just put it right back up on the stand. He didn't tell anybody it was broken. And I go over there and grab it. It's like, what the hell happened to my guitar? Who did this? And we're trying to find out who did. Nobody would cop to it. And then finally, Bonacero, you broke my guitar. But we were in New York. So I went down to 38th Street or whatever it is, where all the music stores are down there. And I went to Manny's or something, and bought this 68 black custom Les Paul for like $800.
Good old days.
The good old days. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is that guitar was on some videos, right?
I think it was.
Is that what you play in I Want a New Drug music video?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. But that one, I had hurt my back, and I had taken a couple of pain medications that we were out working somewhere, and they had me on like Valium and hydrocodone, which was like, they were handing out Valium like, it was like, you're not supposed to take that together. They didn't know that then. I was ripped, because those Valium 10s are strong. I don't even know how I was awake. If I took like a quarter of those right now, I'd be asleep. So. But back then it was like, sure, I'll take, But I was doing okay, except I made a cut. I was throwing some shapes, and I made a cut, and it was a little bit too low to the ground, and I went bam and broke the. I just broke the cord out of it, because the cord sticks out right there, it just snapped off, and But that was the only guitar that I actually ever broke.
That's pretty good.
So,
Pretty good record.
So yeah, and other than that, I didn't fall down a lot either, which was good. That was the only time I fell down. I think I may have only fallen down once, which is pretty good. Have you ever fallen down on stage, Paul? Oh, good. That's a good answer.
Couldn't have been that
I
bad.
probably shouldn't have told that story, but anyway.
How do you think your musical influence carried over with the jazz background?
Well,
How much of that do you think kind of when you came into the more rock unit, aside from, I think obviously the notable thing would be the chords in a lot of the bridges of Huey Lewis and the News songs are advanced.
Yeah, well, so, right before Huey Lewis and the News, I was playing with Dave Liebman. I don't know if any of you guys know who Dave Liebman is, but he played with Miles, and then another guy named Pee Wee Ellis, and he wrote Cold Sweat. I mean, the guy, they were two legend saxophone players, and we had this band that was bass, guitar, drums, really loud, and two caterwauling saxophones. I mean, just like sheets of, Coltrane stuff just blasting out, and it was funk. So it was funk music with just caterwauling Coltrane shit going on. It was insane. I'm surprised people actually stayed, because it was musicians' music. It was like not the kind of stuff that you'd want to take your mom to. But my mom came and she liked it actually, but she had to listen to all the other stuff along the years. So, but so I came from there, and then went in and I worked with Esther Phillips for a little while. Did a tour in Europe, and so I was used to doing gigs with charts and all that stuff, and but I was also way into just improvising loud jazz. That was what I was into. And then I ended up joining Huey Lewis' band, and then it was like it was a whole new world for me. It was like, wow, rock music, this stuff is super easy. It's like all these bar chords and it was like, oh man, this is lame, but I'm gonna do it because I need the money. And then it kind of became a thing, and we got a management deal, and then it was like, but I kind of dove into the rock thing a little bit. And tried to become a rock guy, and a rock player. I tried to learn a little bit more about it. But then as we went on, I was slowly trying to exert my influence into the music because I couldn't help but infiltrate and double cross. Because that's just, it was just, I had to, man. It was like, because the music was like super pedestrian to me. And I wanted to make it more interesting for me, but a lot of that stuff ended up coming out, and a lot of the songs that I wrote didn't make it, and for whatever reason. But some of the stuff did make it, and then some of the stuff that I wanted to do didn't make it, like parts and stuff. But I tried to get a little bit of it in there, just something a little bit different. So I had to do it judiciously, because otherwise it would just get shot down. So,
right.
But I tried to do something try to do it a little bit differently, Yeah. So
when you started writing parts and songs with Huey and the guys, did you have kind of different considerations aside from like that kind of more jazz influence? Do you have considerations for like arrangements, because there's different lineup than the two sax, guitar, bass, drums, or was that kind of more of they'll figure out where to fit in here?
Well,
and there?
we were trying to make pop music, so I mean there's only a limited amount of stretching that you can do with that. So it was, like I said, it was very judicious in terms of my infiltrating influence, but mostly I just tried to make it as poppy as I could, because that's what we were supposed to be doing. That was the job, it wasn't like, it's not a jazz band, so, but, you try a little bit here and there, just because.
Did you have any kind of gear changes or considerations for studio versus live playing?
Well, in the studio, it's great because you can use all kinds of old amps. We like for Walking on Thin Line, for example, we had a little Harvard, a Tweed Harvard, a 57 Tweed Harvard. And that thing just, you just turn it up all the way. And it sounds great. It sounds like compressed already, and it just sounds great. It's a great solo tone. You put a little reverb on it and you're done. You know, it was great. So, you know, but I wouldn't do that. Didn't do that live, because I was, you know, I had like, well, at one point I was running Mesa Boogie stuff, you know, quad preamp and all that stuff. And then I started out with a high watt, and then that was just like too much. It was just too British and rocky, and it was just, you know. So I got rid of that and got some Marshalls, and and that was pretty good. You know, that was a little bit more standard rock, you know, kind of, you know, Journey kind of shit, you know. But you know, and then I went on to the boogie stuff because Randy was, you know, I went over there and talked to him, and he's like, yeah, I'll set you up with some stuff, and you know, I never had an endorsement deal with him, but I had a deal where he would give me one for free if I bought one. So, because we were, you know, which was a pretty good deal to me. I mean, because I had money, it was okay. It wasn't, you know, we could afford it. So I had like four rigs, you know, and we were hopscotching at one point where we'd send the rigs up to the next show because we were starting to do big shows and stuff. So, you know, we had to hopscotch equipment because the setup time, it would take like a day and a half to set the stuff up. So it got to be a little, you know, we never really had a lot of production, not like a you know, Michael Jackson show or something. Yeah. It was pretty bare bones production, but at the same time there was a lot of gear, and we had like 5 trucks, so it was a lot, you know. So did you have the same gear? Yeah, it was just identical rigs. Yeah. So that's what I ended up using for a lot of the time and then I switched over to Groove Tube stuff for a little while. That was pretty cool, actually. I like that Groove Tube stuff. It's pretty good. It was when it came out, I really liked it a lot. Then I got off that, and then I went back to something else. I can't remember what I went to after that. But then we started using rental gear. When we as soon as we started, you know, going down a little bit, we started playing on flatbed trucks, and I'm going, oh man, I don't know if I want to keep doing this shit. You know, it's like, you know, I mean, you know, I don't know, man. But we were still getting paid and stuff. And then once my kids were born, it was like, I'm out. Sorry, man. I got to hang out with my kids, man.
Well, on the way up from the bigger kind of the transition to Mesa and Boogie and kind of the bigger shows, were you still running kind of the same size amps, or did you end up just getting larger amps for the larger shows?
No, I ended up with I had the quad preamp, and then I had these 200 watt power amps. You know, these 2 power amps that the Mesa Boogie made. Mm-hmm. They're super powerful. They're just power amps, you know. And then we just use. I can't remember what I was using. I might have been probably 412 cabinets. You know, I think. You know, we'd have 412 cabinets mic'd up, and you know, and then a monitor for the wet stuff on the side. So. Do
you remember about what time that transition was between the Marshalls and that?
Yeah, it was probably like late 80s, I guess. You know, I don't know when those quad preamps came out. I think 87 or something.
87, 88-ish.
So sometime in there. That's when I switched over to that stuff. Yeah. And then the 90s was kind of, I don't, you know, we ended up doing a lot of, after that was when I got into the Groove Tube stuff. And then we ended up, we did a lot of gigs with rental gear. Mm-hmm. Like when we went to Europe, we didn't bring any amps. It was just all, you know, like I'd have a twin, you know, and maybe a Marshall. So. Do
you have any advice for a guitarist playing potential rental gear, or you know?
Well, I'll tell you what. Get like a fractal or neural thing. You know, I mean, amps are cool, but I just leave them at home because you know, let's face it, you could take that thing and put it in your suitcase. I mean, you know, we didn't have that luxury, so.
Right.
I mean, the closest I got to it was a Rock Band. Yeah. I remember when I got that thing, I was like, I put those things on. I would practice with that, and it was great. Yeah. Had 2 sounds, you know.
That's all I need, yeah.
It was pretty good. Yeah, clean and dirty, yeah. And they both flanged this shit, you know. So just, a lot of chorus on the clean thing, you know. It was pretty funny.
For the era, you know.
Yeah. But, I don't know. Well, you know, tube amps are great. I love the sound of a tube amp. There's nothing like it because they're super punchy and, you know, I don't know. I like hearing the sound coming through the air from an amplifier. I do like that. But, you know, now it can be emulated digitally, and it's pretty damn good. And it's close enough for, like, if you're a working musician, you don't really need to bring your nice tube amp to the gig. I would just use the digital stuff, you know. I mean, that's what I would do now. You know, just get a Neuralink or a Line 6 or a, you know, Fractal.
Yeah.
You know, Kemper. A Kemper, I don't know, I'm not sure about the Kemper. I like the Kemper a lot. I use it at home, but it's like, I don't know if I could do it on the gig because I'd get in the weeds so easy. I'd be all up in there, you know, just think, you know, oh man, you know, and then you're not putting on a show because that's what we're doing. It's show business, right?
Yeah.
You know, you got to just, if it doesn't sound good, you just keep playing until you get a time to fix it. Yeah. You know, you don't go and fix it during the show. You know, you don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Don't go down there. Just play, finish the song, do as much as you can do real quick, and then play the next song. And then if something still doesn't sound right, you know, don't do it while you're working though. Yeah. You know, because it looks bad. Yeah. So that's my advice.
Yeah. A lot of your solos are very melodic. And considered for like musical, for lack of a better word. Do you think, is there anything in your early influences or just intentional that you could point out specifically that kind of sets you apart on doing things like that?
So when I worked with Liebman, he used to do this thing where he would like make a statement at the beginning of his solo. He would just play like a little melody thing, and then he would stop. And then he would play it again, and then he would stop, and then he would play it again, but it would be a little bit more complicated. And then he'd stop, and then he'd play it again, and it would be a lot more complicated. And then pretty soon he was just playing all kinds of stuff. I mean, it just went berserk, and he went and took it to a complete crescendo, and then stopped, and then he would play it, the beginning thing again, you know. And it was very thematic. Mm. And so I kind of took that to heart, and I thought, well, but I took it a little bit, I made it more of a pop thing and thought, you know, if you can't whistle it, it's probably not, or if you can't sing it or hum it, you know, people aren't going to remember it. It's just a bunch of notes. I mean, anybody can play a bunch of notes. I mean, I love playing a bunch of notes. It's fun. But if you're going to make a solo that you're going to want people to remember, it has to be something melodic and something that you're going to want to go, you know, not that, but, you know, that was for you. Not that, no, that's giant steps. You don't want to do that. No, but you do like, you know, something that is, like you can borrow from nursery rhymes. You know, that's a good source. You know, people do that a lot. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I mean, whatever. You know, borrow from nursery rhymes. You can borrow from, and actually, one of my guitar teachers was way into that. He was way into taking nursery rhymes and making songs out of them. And he was one of my early guitar teachers. He didn't teach me a lot, but he did teach me that. That's kind of can be useful. You know, you want to have something that people will be able to remember and be able to sing, because we can all play a lot of notes. Guitar players don't want to shut up. We just can't help ourselves. You know, we play a lot because we don't have to breathe. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. No breathing necessary. You know, you just keep going, man. I don't have to stop. Yeah. So yeah. So if you can also use some space in the right, you know, in the right moment can be very powerful. So that's a good thing, I think. Obviously, you don't want too much space in a pop song, but you know, a little bit. Sometimes it's good to take a pause and, you know, maybe try to be more thematic in your soloing. You know, it's something to think about.
Early on in your career, you guys cut a song, a Mutt Lange song, "Do You Believe in Love?"
Yeah.
That was kind of very essential to the band continuing at the time. How did you guys get connected with Mutt and that song in particular?
Well, so Mutt produced one of the Clover albums. I don't know if anybody knows who Clover is, but that was the band that Huey and Sean were in for before we put the Huey Lewis thing together. And they had a band with John McPhee, who's the guitar player for the Doobies now, and a couple other guys, Alex Call, and a couple other jokers I can't remember right now. They went to England. They had a modicum of success in America, and then they decided they were going to go to England, and they ended up opening for Thin Lizzy. And I think that's where Huey got into throwing shapes and stuff. He got all that stuff from Phil Lynott, because Phil Lynott was way into the shapes, man. I don't know if you've ever watched any Phil Lynott videos, but they're just, he was way into the whole, and get out there and jump around, and the guitar players were all over the place and jumping over speaker cabinets and stuff, So that's where he got all that from. And then they made a record in England, and I don't know how they connected with Mutt, but Mutt ended up producing that record for them. I don't think it ever sold any records or anything. I think it had some success. But then they went and ended up playing on Elvis Costello's record, My Aim Is True, which is a great record. Sean Hopper played on that, the keyboard player for Huey Lewis and the News. And I think John McPhee played on it. I don't know that Huey did anything for it. But I think he probably hung out and, I don't think he did anything on it. But he probably hung out in the studio and, drank beer and stuff, whatever they were doing back then. But, so he knew Mutt from that, from doing the Clover album. So then they tapped, so they became friends after they made that record. Mm-hmm. And they remained friends. And then when our second album came out, the record company was like, because our first album didn't do all that great. I think we sold like 50,000 copies or something. They said, well, we're on Chrysalis Records, which was Pat Benatar and Blondie. And they said, well, you guys need a hit song. So Huey called up Mutt Lange, because, Mutt Lange had been working with AC/DC and a bunch of other guys. I can't remember who else, but a ton of people, Def Leppard and all those guys. But I don't know if they were around back then. But anyway, so he said, we need a pop song. So Mutt gave us "Do You Believe in Love?" And then that was what we got into the top 10. I remember driving across the Golden Gate Bridge. I was in my beat up green VW, man. I had the compression started on hills because my starter didn't work. And I was driving across the bridge, and it came on the radio, and I was like, I think I made it. I did it. I'm in a big time rock band now. It's great. So that was like the beginning, and then that record, we had a moderate success with that because I don't think we had any other singles off that album. But that one went to number 6 on the Parallel 1 stations, which were all the AM stations at the time, which is where they used to play all the pop music back in the old days. And then I think we had, what else was on that record?
Working for a Living?
Working for a Living, yeah. That was kind of that was like an FM hit. So, and I wrote that one on my couch in my pajamas with my 330 with no amp. Yeah. From a napkin. He gave me the lyrics. He gave me the one verse and the chorus, and on a napkin at the bar. He goes, here's my new song. I said, I'll go write it. And I went home and wrote it. It took about like 5 minutes. It's not much of a song. It's just, you know what I mean? Just, You know what I mean? There's nothing to it, You know what I mean? But it was like juga jacka, juga jacka, juga jacka, juga, and then, so that was like a FM kind of, sort of an FM hit. I think it went top 20 or something. So that kind of got us on the map, and we became sort of a club band at that point. So we went out and toured like colleges. We played 200 shows a year. I mean, we played so many shows. We were on the bus. I mean, we played so many freaking shows. I was gone the whole time. It was just, I was young too. I was like, 25. So it was pretty cool. On the time of my life, and then, when we got to the third record, the record company was like, "You guys need a big hit," because we had a moderate success with that one. So it was like, but they said, "You guys really need a hit," because we had written a bunch of material for sports, and they said, "You guys need a hit." So we're going to set you up with this guy, this Mike Chapman and Nicky Chin. And they were the guys that did "Oh Mickey, what a pity you don't," that one, right? What's the
Mickey, you're so fine, right? That one?
Yeah. Oh Mickey, you're so fine. Oh Mickey.
Yeah.
Hey Mickey, he was the cheerleader. I can't remember her name. Tony Basil. Yeah. So So they wrote this song "Heart and Soul" for us, right? That one, right? And that one, we were out on tour with, so we recorded the record and we had a big kerfuffle with the record company, and they were arguing about this and that, and they delayed the release and everything, because we started in like 83, and then finally it got released in 84, but we had to put that song on there, and then, all the rest of the stuff was all pretty much just our stuff. If this is it, and I want a new drug and all that stuff, and Bad is Bad, I can't remember what else was on there, but when we were on the road with 38 Special, we were opening up shows for 38 Special, and they were great. They're great guys, really great guys, but they were big. There was Hold On Loosely, so they were pretty big. We were playing basketball arenas. And when we started out the tour, we were getting booed off the stage. They were like, 38 Special, get off the stage, But then, like halfway through the tour, Heart and Soul went to #1. Like about halfway through the tour, it was like 3 weeks into the tour. By the end of the tour, everybody was singing along, and they were all jumping up and down and everything. It was crazy. I mean, it really, literally happened within a month. People were all of a sudden were going nuts for Heart and Soul, And then about 3 months later, we went and we toured all those shows that we were opening for 38 Special. We were headlining. And then, so that was a pretty cool transition, Yeah. It happened pretty quickly. And then Sports was a pretty big record, so,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Going into the 4 era, you did some more couch songwriting. Is there something to writing songs on your couch unplugged for an electric guitar player, or is it just magic that you had in that particular couch?
I only had a couch. I didn't have like a studio, you know what I mean? And I had a couch and a TV and and pajamas.
Yeah.
So. Sometimes not, but
it's a little unsanitary.
Most of the time, pajamas. So I think I ended up writing a couple other songs. That way.
Stuck With You is another couch song.
Well,
correct?
that wasn't a couch song.
No?
That was that's a funny story actually, because we had a bunch of songs on the record, but Bob Brown, our manager, came to me and he said, "Hayes, we need another hit. You got to write one." And I went, "Okay." And I went and I bought a half a gram of Coke and a couple of 6-packs of beer, and I went home and I wrote "Stuck With You." I mean, because he told me to. I was on orders to go, but that's what I did. I'm being honest. That's what I did. I had to go get some more Coke after that. But no, it wasn't a lot. It wasn't like I was out of my mind or something, just a little bit to pick me up or whatever. But, But back in those days, the real estate agents were doing it. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? It was like your dentist was doing it. So it was weird. Back in those days, it was weird. It was just everywhere. You'd go into a bathroom and somebody would go, "Hey, you want a bump?" Sure. It was weird. But don't do that now because you don't know what's in it now.
Yeah.
But the reason why I wrote that song that way was because I was enamored with Donald Fagen, and I heard IGY, and I thought that was the greatest song in the whole world. I was deep into that Fagen solo record, man, the Nightfly.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just all over that thing. I loved Maxine and, Brecker playing on that. That's great. And, she's got a lot of really good music on it. But I really like IGY. I like the groove, So I thought, I'm going to write something kind of like that, kind of reggae, kind of poppy, And I just went, so I started writing the tune. I just, oops, that. And then I thought, well, that's kind of boring if I just keep doing that, So then I thought, well, maybe if I modulate up to a whole step, it'll be better, So I did that, and then went, the whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty cool. So then I thought, okay, that's a good song. I think that's going to work. So, and then I just took it to the guys and they liked it. So but Mario used to make so much fun of that song. He kept going, this old man, he played knick-knack with, it was like, he would do that all the time. It was driving me fucking crazy.
It sounds like the nursery rhyme thing stuck.
Yeah, right. Oh, man, it used to piss me off so bad. I used to get mad a lot back then. Now I wouldn't care.
Yeah. Do you think your song, how would you say your songwriting progressed from when you get handed the napkin for working for 11 versus that,
Well, that one, Huey had to come up with the lyrics after I wrote the song, so it was a lot harder. It was like, oh, man, because that's hard to do. It's a lot easier to take lyrics and write a song. That's easy as pie. It really is, because you just figure out what style you want, and then you just kind of start monkeying around, and then before you know it, you got a song, and then if you don't like it, you just start another one, I mean, that's the way I was. But some other guys had trouble coming up with stuff, but up in here, it's crazy up in here. So a lot of stuff was going on, and I just had all these ideas. It was just, some people are just like that. Some people don't have any ideas, and some people have ideas. I had ideas, That's why one of the reasons I was in the band, because some of the other guys didn't have very many ideas. So, but they had ideas too. They just weren't as good. No, I'm just kidding. No, but so after that, I mean, having to write lyrics, that was the hardest part for Huey, was because I would come in with, I would just like come in with tons of songs, and I wouldn't have lyrics for him. And he had a hell of a time writing lyrics to songs that I'd written, because it's really hard to do, because you got a mood, because when you write a piece of music, it's got a feel to it. It's got an emotion to it. That's the emotive part of music. I mean, lyrics are just words, but the music speaks to us in a different way. It's an emotional thing that we're feeling, and that's why we're musicians, because we're emotive. It's a thing for us. So. So he would have trouble with it, but he would just like pound it out and finally come up with an idea and then just run with it and flesh it out and figure it out. So I credit him for that. He had a lot of work to do, because I was bringing stuff in all the time. I mean, I had tunes coming out of my ears, man. There were all kinds of stuff. I would write 20 songs for a record, and we'd do like 5 maybe. So granted, out of those 20 songs, maybe only 3 of them were good. So, but sometimes quantity is better than quality, because if you got a lot of quantity, there is going to be some quality in there, hopefully, It's like spending time with your kids. You can lie to yourself and say, I'm just going to spend quality time with them. But actually, if you just spend quantity time with them, it's better because they're going to appreciate it a lot more. And you're going to find out that there's a lot of quality in that quantity. So, quantity is important, man. You got to just do as much as you can. Just, write as many songs as you can. Just keep writing songs. If you like to write songs, write tons of them. And, you're going to fail, but you're also going to succeed. So, you just have to keep doing it and do a lot of it, right? I guess. Yeah. That was always my theory.
Do you have a favorite act or band that you toured with, either opening for or as your opener?
Well, yeah,
across the years?
I love the 3/8 Special guys. I recently got in touch with Jeff Carlisi, and we had a nice FaceTime chat. It was great. We, went down the old memory lane. That was fun, and that was great working with those guys. Of course, Stevie Ray Vaughan opened for us for like a year and a half, so that was super. Come on. I mean, that was just insane. Stevie was great. He was, I went on the bus with him one night. He used to shake your hand. He just about break your hand. I mean, the guy was so strong. He was like a mechanic or something, man. His grip was insane. He would hurt my hand every time he shook my hand. It was like, it took me like an hour to recover from it, So anyway, one night I got on the bus with him with a bottle of Crown Royal, man, and we just, it was just me and him on the bus too. Everybody else was gone, and we were driving somewhere. I can't remember where it was. Somewhere in the Midwest, and we had a great time. We drank that whole bottle of Crown Royal.
I bet.
It was insane. He was drinking a lot back then, but that was before he got sober. But he was amazing. The guy was, you have no idea if you never got to see him. I mean, he was just the most amazing guitar player I've ever seen. I mean, he wasn't, it wasn't like he was playing blues, so it wasn't like he was playing anything like bebop or something. You know what I mean? It wasn't complicated, but it was the way that he was doing it was so powerful. It was unbelievable, the power coming off of the stage and the way that he was manhandling that guitar. I mean, it was insane. Yeah. He was just massacring it, It was crazy.
That's why the handshakes hurt, I bet.
Yeah. And he used I think it was he had
13s or 12s.
12s on the top. I couldn't even bend the string. I'm like a little sissy, And he's over there just manhandling these 12s. It was crazy. That's why he was so strong, I guess. I mean, well, besides he grew up in Texas.
Or one beget the other. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's hard to know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but Yeah. Anyhow, he was probably, and then he was probably my favorite of all the guys because I used to just go and watch him every single night. There wasn't one night where I didn't go watch Stevie play because it continued to amaze me. I couldn't stop watching. It was like an accident. I had to watch it. It was crazy. I don't think I missed one show. And it was wow. Then we had another good one was Bruce Hornsby in the Range. They were really good, but that's a whole different thing. But he's a real jazz guy. But his Americana approach is pretty cool. Yeah. So I like his music. He's good. And then the Neville Brothers was another good band that we had. They were really good. Neville Brothers are great. If you like Nolan's music. We toured with them for a long time, and they were fun. Aaron Neville was great. He was the sweetest guy. He was in prison, for I don't know how long, but I don't know what for or something. He probably almost killed somebody or something. Yeah. But he was the sweetest guy in the world. He had all these prison tats and shit. He was really cool. Yeah. And they were all New Orleans guys, and the guitar player was a really nice guy. I can't remember his name, but he was really cool. At Lloyd, no, that was with Stevie's drummer. Yeah, they were really cool. Nice. We had, and then we had Joan Jett for a while. Yeah, it wasn't my favorite, but she was a nice gal, though. Yeah. She liked the gals.
Yeah.
It's cool though. Yeah. I like the gals too, so that was fine. We were like in the same club, so it was actually fine with me. I don't know. Yeah, no, it's not. But you know, it was like, but it was new for us. And then we ended up getting Melissa Etheridge. There's another one, you know. So it's like, oh, again, we got another. You know, it's like, okay, fine, whatever. You know, and she was pretty cool. She was good. You know, but it wasn't really my style. I'm not a huge fan. But she's great. Don't get me wrong. She's fantastic. I love her. She's great. And her music is good, but not really the kind of stuff that I would like sit down and listen to a whole bunch. You know, so, which is not much, I'll tell you that. I mean, I can listen to Coltrane and gospel music. That's about it. So.
Yeah. Any advice for players
and
coming
Chopin,
up?
of course. What's that?
Any advice for players coming up on the, you know, touring, playing, anything in general?
Try not to get drunk too much because, you know, that's going to hurt you. Yeah, you know, try to keep your monster on a leash. It's probably the most important thing. You know, that was always the most important thing for me because I got in a lot of trouble. And then when I was sober, it was easy to play. It was so fucking easy. It was just, everybody else was drunk too. And I'm like, you guys are all drunk. I'm going to be fine tomorrow morning. You guys are going to be sick. You know, so that was great. I spent 5 years doing that, and that was really good. So that's important, I think. That's probably the worst pitfall out there for touring musicians is, you know, substance abuse. It's, you know, it's hard because, you know, it's easy to do. But that being said, aside from that, I don't know, you know, make sure you sleep a lot because it's hard. You know, sleep deprivation is the other thing. That really hurt me a lot because, you know, we just weren't getting enough sleep, you know. You know, it took me 5 years, my wife can attest to this, it took me 5 years to recover from after I quit working before I could sleep again properly, before I could sleep like 8 hours, because I just couldn't sleep. Yeah. It was weird. I mean, I'd fall asleep in the afternoon, you know. I used to be able to, you know, when you're on the road, it's funny because I used to be able to go to sleep anywhere. I mean, if I was in an airport, I would fall asleep. I'd wake up, you know. And get on a bus, fall asleep. Get in a bunk, fall asleep, you know. If you're on a bus touring is great. I don't know if any of you have done it, but bus touring is the best because you get in that bunk, man. I used to call it the Ponderosa. Used to get in there and just, you know, hang out. It was great. I don't know what else. You know, touring is hard, but you know, it can be fun. Yeah. But you know, maybe exercise. That's super important. And we used to go out and play golf. So if you can find something to do, golf is great because you can go play golf and it's, you know, we used to, you know, we'd go out and we'd trade tickets for golf, and we played at some of the best golf courses in the world. I mean, it was amazing, and we had a built-in foursome. It was me and Huey and Bill, and well, later on, John Pierce. But Johnny used to play with us, but then he kind of quit playing after a while. But then when John Pierce joined the band after Mario quit, John Pierce was a golf fanatic, so we had 4 again, so it was pretty cool. So, but golf is a pretty cool way to kill time because hanging out in a hotel room ain't that fun. After you've been doing it for a while, mm-hmm. you can really, you know, idle hands are the devil's playground. So, you know, you gotta be careful of that. So, cool,
awesome. Yeah. I think we're gonna open it up to the open Q&A now. We're gonna bring a mic out into the center aisle. And if you have a question, just stand in front, ask your question. And if you have multiple questions, just please be courteous and kind of, you know, go around. If you've got a second question, let everybody get a shot.
Small World is my favorite
cool.
album. I want to know about Getz on that. I want to know if you were there when he cut and if you got to actually cut in the room with him or if he came in by himself when you weren't there and what that was like. I want to know the Stan Getz experience.
Yeah, I mean, okay, for me that was great because, you know, you know, we had already cut the track, you know, so I don't know if this is working.
That was what was.
Oh, that was what was making noise. Okay, it was me. You're good. Okay, yeah. Anyway, so we had already cut the track, and that record there was a lot of funk on that record. You know, it was, I wrote like half the record. So, I mean, Small World is it's got some stuff on it. It's not just some pop song, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? There's some cool stuff in there, right? Let me see, what was it? I mean, it had some chords to it, you know what I mean? It wasn't just some pop garbage, So, so we thought, this is a pretty cool song. We need to get a saxophone player on there. And then Huey's like, let's get Stan Getz, because his dad was like a huge Stan Getz guy, right? Because Stan Getz is kind of old school. Stan Getz pretty much invented the bossa nova craze. You know what I mean? Him and João Gilberto, but he brought that Brazilian music to the United States and popularized it, which is beautiful music. It's the most beautiful music. I mean, Brazilian music is amazing. So anyhow, so Stan Getz, we get Stan Getz. He comes to the session. We'd already cut all the tracks, and he just came to the session and hung out, and he was just cracking jokes and stuff, and he just got his alto out and just we just let him blow, and we had the long version, so we just cut him loose on it. We just said, have at it. So he took a couple passes at it, just played a bunch of.
That's it, 1 or 2 takes.
Yeah, he did like 3 takes, and then he was old, he was like 70.
Like right before he died.
Yeah, it was like he was like 75 or something. So, but well, I mean, I'm almost 75, so I shouldn't say that. Anyway, I'm 67, and a half. Yeah, but yeah, he was amazing. He was just so gracious and really nice, and I was, I had stars in my eyes because he was a jazz guy, and I thought finally we got some jazz guys on this shit. It was great. I kept trying to get Pee Wee on the records and stuff. It was like, it was funny. Anyhow, yeah, it was really really cool having him come and do that session.
Yeah. Anybody free to ask a question? Go ahead. Yeah.
The music videos to me are like just as exciting as the songs. Is there a favorite music video that you were a part of, and was it like a collaborative process with the videos as well?
Okay, so the videos were it was a mixed bag. They were fun, but they were not fun because a lot of times it's a lot of hanging out. There was a lot of hanging out going on, waiting, because we're just the side guys, we're not like Huey Lewis. I'm just a guitar player. They're only going to want a few shots of me. You know what I mean? But yet we had to hang out there all day long and eat flat meat sandwiches. You know what I mean? So it was kind of rough. It wasn't great, but we managed to make it okay. Try not to get too drunk and all that, so, because it's a long day. I mean, they would go on for you'd start at 6 in the morning and it would go on until 10 at night. They were long. I mean, gruesome, but they were also really fun. Like the If This Is It video, for example, right? That one was done on the beach. That was pretty cool because we were there for 3 days with Ed Grimes, who did all the Cyndi Lauper videos. So, we were there with Ed Grimes, and we were there for 3 days at Santa Cruz Beach. And we were staying at the Dream Inn or whatever it is down there. And, it's just a nice little beach hotel. So it was pretty cool, And but that was pretty cool. They had that scene where we were buried in the sand. And so what they did was they dug a hole, and they put some little stools in there. And then they took a piece of plywood and cut 4 holes in it and put it over our heads. And then piled sand on top of that, right? And then, of course, the shoot takes 3 hours. So we had to take all of our clothes off. We had to actually unbury it, and because we went in there dressed. And it was we can't stay in here like this because we're sweating our balls off, So we took the thing off, got out, and stripped down to our underwear, and then put the thing back on, and then continued to shoot. But we were in there for 2.5, 3 hours, and there were all these sand flies that were like, they had like a guy or a girl or somebody was like swatting sand flies away from our face because they kept coming and landing on us and stuff. It was crazy, but it ended up being pretty cool, with the heads bouncing back and forth. It was kind of cute, Never want to do that again. Anything like that. Yeah, so.
That became almost a running gag, was those videos with just your heads
Yes.
back and forth.
It did,
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, we did that, and Doing It All for My Baby, we did that again. So, yeah.
So when you guys started, and as the first album was getting created and moving into the second album, was the harmonies, the layered vocal harmonies, like that was going to be a very important part of how we create our sound? Or did that kind of come, was that like a intentional decision, or did you just all realize we blend really well, let's work harmonies more into our sound?
Well, when we first started out, Cola was way into the background vocals, Johnny Cola. And but when we first started out, we didn't have as elaborate sort of background vocals. But as we kind of got into it, we sort of, thought, well, wow, we're singing pretty good. And Johnny wanted to, we wanted to do a lot more with background vocals. So we just started doing it more and more and becoming more elaborate with it. It just sort of evolved over time to where it became kind of a signature thing. You know what I mean? When we first started out, though, we didn't, like, if you go and listen to the very first debut album, Huey Lewis and the News, of us on the surfboard, which only sold like 50,000 copies. Nobody's ever heard it, hardly. But we're remixing it right now. They're going to re-release it. And all the songs are way too fast. I mean, it's just, you can tell we were all really young. We were all like,
Was that kind of trying about grabbing the sound of the moment in a way? We wanted these songs that sound kind of...
That was the idea, but the moment was a little too fast.
Right.
It was going a little too fast.
The coke was starting to happen at that point.
Yeah. It was just, we were a little bit overzealous, perhaps. But, looking back on it, it was fun, though. We were camped out in a hotel, in a house, a big house in Laurel Canyon in L.A. And, we were recording at American Studios, Richie Podler Studio in over the hill in wherever that is. Is that Van Nuys or I don't know where you go over the hill and whatever that town is. What's that? I think no, maybe Burbank or something. I don't know anyway, but we were staying up in Laurel Canyon, and we used to go out to the Whiskey A Go-Go we would just go down there and drink booze and hang out. It was wild. It was great. It was really, and I was 22 or something. So it was amazing for me. I barely even felt the hangovers back then. Couldn't do that now, but yeah, it was fun. It was fun making that record because we did it in an old '60s studio. They recorded "Let There Be Drums" there, and it was they recorded a bunch of Jay and the American stuff there. So it was like it was like a studio with the white panels with the holes in them. That's what the studio was. It was like a '60s studio. It was insane, and the equipment was old. I mean, it was, they had like one of those. It was a room, the reverb chamber, the tank. It had like a big piece of sheet metal in it, right? Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah. So, yeah, that was a fun experience. But yeah, so the background vocal wise, when we got to the second record, we started doing a lot more stuff and. I think we did some background vocals on Trouble in Paradise. Maybe there was some, that was one of Johnny's songs. Johnny really liked the background vocals. So we started doing that more and more. And then we started getting into the a cappella thing because we actually, the way we got into that was warming up before the shows. Because you'd have to warm your voice up. So we started singing a cappella songs. We just worked up a couple songs and it was like, hey, maybe we should put some of this stuff in the show. And so we started doing that, and then that became kind of a thing for us. We used to stop the show halfway through and do like 3 a cappella numbers, and that was kind of cool. So, yeah.
Got a couple of questions about Power Love here.
Sure.
So Was that guitar solo inspired, at least in part, by Stevie Ray Vaughan? Because it definitely has a Texas blues.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Let's Dance, right?
Yeah.
Great tune. And when I heard that, I was like, who the hell is that, man? That guy's good. And then I found out who it was, and wasn't really listening to him, but I thought, I think I want to do something kind of like that, because that's a cool sound. So yeah, I didn't really go, okay, I'm going to copy Stevie Ray Vaughan, because I didn't even know who he was at that time, really. I mean,
was that prior to you touring with him?
Yes, it was. I'm pretty sure it was.
But you had heard his playing on
Well,
Let's
I heard
Dance.
his playing on Let's Dance, and I thought, that's really cool, because I didn't even know who it was. I just thought, that's really good. I want to do a solo like that.
And you played some of those similar kind of Albert King style bends there.
It's just basic, Yeah, I mean, it wasn't very good in my opinion.
It was very good.
But it's iconic. I mean, to me, I would go back there and do it again. I would probably practice for a few weeks, and maybe I could do it a lot better. Because I mean, that's something that's hard, man. But it ended up being an iconic guitar solo. So
Yeah. Well, I think that you did it so well. There was a point where I'm like, wait a minute. Stevie Ray played on Let's Dance. Did he track this one? I looked it up years ago.
Oh, did you really?
I thought maybe it might have been him.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we had this, it was a 57 Strat that I got from some guy for $1,200, back in the day when you could buy guitars for $1,200. And it was all, I still have it. It's all beat up. It's got scratches all over it, but it just sounds so good. And it's got that little V-neck, the V-neck, and it's got no finish on it. So it's super smooth, and it just feels really good. It's a nice guitar. And that guitar, I love that guitar. It's just super noisy. I used it on a Pee Wee Ellis gospel album. We did a gospel music record with Pee Wee Ellis and Jimmy Pugh and James Levi, or no, it was John Mader, some Bay Area guys, gospel record. And I had to, I got a piece of wire and attached it to the bridge, and then got a little piece of plastic with two metal things on it and attached that to my wrist so that it was grounded, because it was making so much noise. I mean, it was insane. But I played the whole record with that, and not Power of Love. Power of Love was just as loud as the Marshall would go in a room. You know what I mean? That was just a 50-watt Marshall with a 412 cabinet cranked, just as loud as I could get it. And, that's what that was. So.
Second question, the bridge to Power of Love. You played those beautiful chords earlier, and we talked about this earlier, that amazing voicing for the F minor 9.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to play.
Yeah. And so
I always wish I had tuned my guitar to an F, because it would have sounded better.
you want the F in the
yeah.
You want that?
Yeah, that. Yeah. I was always missing that one, because this, that chord is so cool.
So my question is, such an unusual voicing that you didn't hear in pop and rock music, but so that would have come from your listening to jazz. I'm curious, what are the contexts where you would use that sort of chord?
I don't know. I mean, I just got kind of, I don't know how I came across that chord. I was just goofing around, I came across that chord somehow. I don't know if I got it from anywhere, but, I've heard other people play it. I mean, it's not an uncommon chord, but it's, it's like this one.
On the FM stations, it was pretty uncommon, I think.
Right, but it's a weird, it's not easy to play. This was a lot easier to play.
It was the hardest chord I had to try to figure out when I was learning that song.
Yeah. What's that?
It was the hardest chord for me to figure out.
Yeah, it's not easy. Yeah, and it's no fun to play, really. Thank God it only lasts for one bar.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry.
I love that you guys wrote stuff that was hard to play even for yourself.
So, having had the benefit of playing with Ben for a while, I've seen through him a lot of your playing just kind of shine through. Thing I notice a lot is just kind of the gentle approach that you play. You have a lot of dynamics. But I guess kind of going back, starting your guitar, how did you kind of develop your style?
Yeah, so guitar is funny because, if you play it as hard as you can play it, it doesn't really sound that good, but there's a lot of things that you can do, I mean, just, if you play it, sometimes you have to play it quiet, and sometimes you got to play it loud. It's just, right, Paul? Sometimes but sometimes you have to go, and you have to go. Sometimes you have to hit it hard. So you have to kind of figure that out for yourself. I mean, and it's all, but it really, the way that you hit the guitar makes a lot of difference in the way that it sounds. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there, you know what I mean? There's a lot of range there, so you have to kind of try to do stuff that's appropriate for whatever it is that you're doing, I mean, I don't know. So, yeah, guitar, it's complicated, isn't it? I mean, and it's especially true with picking. I mean, like, you do that, or do you go, you know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I mean, there's so many, it's just how you're touching it. It's like, it's super sensitive, And that's what makes it cool, I think. I mean, and a lot of guys just go, I mean, that's no fun. That's for campfires, So you got to try to get a little deeper into it, and try to get into. It's like a, you got to. It's like a, it's emotive. It really is. I mean, you kind of figure out what you're playing. I mean, if whatever you're doing, or you might go, I don't know. I mean, you're doing different stuff, so it depends on what you're doing, But yeah, it's all about how you're touching it. Yeah.
This is now. Yeah.
Sorry. Hey, I'm Maddie. I had a quick question. So,
Yeah.
I've grown up listening to Huey Lewis pretty much my entire life.
Uh-huh.
And there was one song that, growing up, I was always curious about, was the song Back in Time.
Back in Time, yeah.
Yeah, how did
Yeah.
that song come to be? That's
Oh, yeah. So that was written by Sean Hopper,
okay.
and I wrote part of it, but he wrote most of the song. So it was like a keyboard thing. It was like he had this synth that he was using back then. I think it was a CS80 or something, like some Yamaha old, keyboard that they had back then. It was a synth, but it was like state of the art back then. Anyway, he had this really cool sound, and he wrote that whole piano part. That whole thing was like a piano riff that he came up with, but he was missing a part. So I wrote just the solo part. This part that goes, where did it go? Yeah, something like that. Let me see. And then I can't remember what the chords are. Yeah. I think I was detuned for that, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so he just needed four chords for the solo, so I wrote that, and I got credit for it, but he wrote the song.
Oh, that's awesome.
But he gave me 10%. So.
Oh, that's
And it was in a movie, so that helped a lot.
Did Huey,
A lot of groceries with that. Yeah.
did Huey write the lyrics before it got to you? Like, did he write the lyrics and give the lyrics to Sean, and then you kind of came in with that last little bit? Do you remember? Or?
No, I think Sean wrote that first.
Okay.
But he sort of like the power of love. I don't know about it was weird because, it was the movie was Back to the Future. So I don't even know how Power of Love got, it was like, well, that had nothing to do with the movie, but it ended up being huge, which was great. I mean, I'm happy.
He just said, "We'll send you the next song," and they said, "Okay, we love it."
Yeah.
He goes, "Well, it's not a love story." You go, "We don't care."
Yeah, they just wanted a Huey Lewis song.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy, but they liked the song. There was another version that got written, but that one didn't make it. And then I said, well, let me take a stab at that because I like to do stuff, So I wrote that on my couch, man.
There you go.
That
You know.
time guitar trade-off, that's killer, man. That's just a little earworm.
Back in Time is great. 'Cause Sean is great. He's a great keyboard player. He's really good, and he had these a lot of cool syncopated things that he would do, and he was really into this New Orleans like Dr. John kind of piano stuff. It was pretty cool. Yeah, he did a lot of stuff like that, and I mean, if you like that kind of stuff, Dr. John, or Leon Russell, go listen to some Leon Russell. That's some good stuff right there. I've been so many places in my life and time. I sung a lot of songs. I made some bad rhymes. That's a great tune. You know that one? That's a crusher. It made me cry. Love that song.
So in a similar vein, obviously there are a lot of Huey songs that have a lot of tonal elements like synths and horns, and some more bare bones ones. How do you find that you had to adjust your playing to songs that had a lot more underlying sounds versus ones that didn't?
Yeah, well, yeah, I would just, like Hip to Be Square, for example, I had to, there wasn't a lot of guitar work in there for me, really. I mean, there were a couple, it was mostly footballs, I'm doing, and then, just like, and then wang, wang, I mean, so it would just kind of, we just sort of, like a song like that we would just construct, I would just construct little guitar parts for that, and try to stay out of the way. Because there was other stuff going on in there that I didn't want to get in the way of that. So I would just like put little fleecy parts in there and stuff. Like, I like parts like that, those little internal parts that are just like, that kind of stuff is great. I just love that. And the funk kind of groove thing. That's really cool. And the big rock bombs, the footballs, there's not much to that. But sometimes you need those texturally, you know what I mean, to add some bark to the tree, so to speak, So, and or to give it something, because, sometimes you just need something with some impact, right? So. But I like those little internal parts for sure, just things that you don't even hear, Oops, I can't play it anymore. It's been a long time since I played that one. Yeah. But yeah, I haven't played that for like 40 years. But yeah, stuff like that was really cool. When you're just building little textures inside of the track, and that's fun stuff. It usually got mixed out though. I always wanted the guitars to be louder, right, Paul? Can we make the guitars louder? Come on, right? Let's make the guitars louder. I love guitars, but they're always mixing around and turning the drums up. I mean, vocals I can understand, but the drums are too loud. Sounds like somebody's building a house. Yeah. No, don't get me. I love drummers. I'm just kidding. I'm making a drum joke. So, yeah. Anyway.
What's up, man? Big fan.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. What was it like working with the Tower Power horns?
Oh, they're great.
Like anything you learned from them or any stories about working with them?
There's a lot of stuff I've forgotten. I'll tell you that. Yeah, it was pretty wild. Tower Power, great. They're a great bunch of guys, and just super having them on the road. They were on the road with us for 4 or 5 years or something. It seemed like forever. As a matter of fact, I saw Mark Russo, who was with us on the sports tours, playing with the Doobies now. I saw him last night. He's great. He's hilarious. The guy's so funny. He's just hilarious. Anyway, yeah, the Tower guys were great. We toured with them for quite a while, and Doc was when he first came with us. He got a little bit of trouble because he was drinking a little bit, but he got it together, and they were great. They worked with us. They were really cool. And Doc is a genius. I don't know if you know this about Doc Kupka. A lot of people don't know who Tower Power is. I don't know if you guys do, but Doc Kupka is the baritone saxophone player. The guy's a freaking genius. I mean, he used to come to the parties with this little Casio keyboard, and he would go through his repertoire. He had like 30 songs, and he would play them, and they all had like really weird lyrics to them. Like, he had this one about, part of the problem, my ex-wife was greedy, took me to the cleaners while the lawyers cleaned up. If I only knew what I knew today, I'd look at love in a whole different way. And he had like 10 of those that were like these incredible opuses about all kinds of just crazy stuff, It was just weird. It was hilarious, man. And then but he did write Simple as That, which is a great tune. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. That's a great tune. That's a, tearjerker kind of thing. But yeah, Tower, they're great dudes. They're still playing too. And they put Squib Cakes on last night. I was like, yeah, I'm rocking out to Squib Cakes. It was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty super. Yeah.
All right, I got one.
Okay.
Of all the songs you wrote, or just played on that you guys did, what song surprised you that became a hit that you didn't really think would be? And was there a song that you really thought was going to be and just didn't?
Well, let's see. I don't know. Well, there's a lot of songs I wanted to be hits that weren't hits, that I thought were good, that I wanted them to be hits, but they just weren't hits. Like Small World, I mean, I thought that was awesome, but, that one didn't pan out for us so well. I mean, we sold 1 million records. It wasn't like it was a failure or something, but it was like, but I don't think it charted very well. And then, I don't know, like, Bad is Bad? I don't know if that one charted very well either, though. I'm trying to think of some songs a song that was a hit. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't think Heart and Soul was all that great, but it was #1. So, you know what I mean? It wasn't my favorite. But it ended up being fun to play, because it was, except with a Les Paul and a Marshall. It didn't sound like that. You know what I mean? It was oh, wait a minute. Maybe- yeah. That was weird because you got to do this instead of this. That's a lot easier. That's the way I used to do it because I was lazy. So it was easier to play when you're, doing things like that. So, yeah. Well, oh yeah.
One more question.
Sure.
I think we might ask this earlier. In Heart and Soul, a little interlude breakdown there, where you're the,
Yeah, this one, yeah.
You cut it short. And the question was that a mistake that you kept?
No, it wasn't a mistake. That's the way it was. That's the way I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that was riff came from their song. I think that the way they did it though was like this. I think they did it just like that. From the demo. I think that was on their demo. But it was just that. It wasn't harmonized. It didn't have that. It didn't have all that stuff on it. I added that stuff, but they just did that. I think it might have even been a synth riff or something, And that was it. But it was like it was a little breakdown thing that they did on their demo. They had a pretty elaborate demo. It was because those guys were record producers, and they had a studio they were working out of. And they had, they were producing Blondie and Pat Benatar, so, they were LA studio sausages. So.
Did the rest of you guys know what was coming when sports was used in American Horror Story, or was Huey the only one that was consulted on that?
Oh no, yeah, that was Hip to Be Square. Right. Oh, you mean sports in American Psycho? Yeah, okay, that's a kind of a funny story. I got a personal one on that because I don't know if you've read the book or not. Well, if you read the book, there's a whole chapter on me in there, which is really weird. I was seeing a shrink back then. I was a therapist, I was just like trying to, I don't know what I was doing, but anyway, I was having some issues. So I was seeing a therapist, and he goes, "Well, have you seen or read this book, American Psycho?" I said, "No." He goes, "Well, there's a whole chapter about you in there, and it's about an axe murder. You might want to check it out." So he gave me the book, and I read it. I'm like, well, this is weird. There's a whole chapter in there with me in it and Whitney Houston, and this elaborate description of like the songs like "I Want a New Drug" and I don't know what other one there was, but yeah, there's like a whole chapter in there about Chris Hayes, and I was like, this is just. I don't even think anybody knew who I was, for crying out loud. And here's this writer's like writing about it. It was bizarre. It kind of freaked me out. Yeah. And then when they did the movie, Huey was like, he's not a big fan of the that genre of film, but I don't know why. But he decided that it was going to be okay that. Because it was sort of an integral part of, but they didn't really use anything except for Hip to Be Square, which I think that was all he allowed them to use probably because he didn't want them, using all of our music in the movie, which I don't know, might have made the movie better. I don't know. Might not have. I don't know. Have you seen the movie? It's pretty gruesome. But anyhow, yeah, it was kind of weird though having somebody write about you in a book because to me, I was just a regular guy. I'm not like I couldn't believe that somebody was writing about me in a book that wasn't like about guitar players from the 80s. It was bizarre. It was very strange. Yeah. Also, along with Whitney Houston, which we didn't have a lot in common. Except that we both love God, so,
Yeah.
It's cool. So, anyhow, that's all I got, unless you have more. Nice
What's
chain. I love your chain.
Hey, thank you.
Sweet.
What's your favorite thing that you've written that didn't get cut?
That got cut or didn't get
That
cut?
didn't get cut.
Oh, yeah. Shoot. Oh, yeah, we had this song. Let me see if I can remember it. We had a song. We had a song called How could you say? Let me see. How did it go? Let me see. Oh, yeah. How could you say that I don't love you? I haven't played this for a long time, so. Baby, you know I'll do anything. It was just a ballad, you know. It was but it was kind of poppy, and it never got recorded. It might get released we're thinking about doing a project of songs that we didn't record. So there are, and there were a couple of other ones. We had a couple of other ones like "I'll Be the One Who Won't," which is like, what does that mean, you know? But the song was really cool. Like it was like, you know. But that hasn't been released either. You know, I mean, there are a lot of songs like that were pretty good pop songs, but they just like, in that example, it's just like the words just were, what does that mean? I'll be the one who won't. It just wasn't a very good hook. So, you know, we didn't record it. So, but we may release it with that hook just because that would be what the record would be about, is songs that didn't make it because they weren't very good for whatever reason or something. I don't know who's going to buy that, but I don't know. They're talking about it though. But yeah, there were so many. It's kind of, and like you saw, I can barely play the ones because I never play them, because like that song, you know, I can't even remember how the verse goes, and I wrote it, so you know, I don't even know. I think it went. I wrote it on piano. That's why I can't play it. Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah, so I used to write stuff on piano because I liked the way that, you know, you write different things on keyboards than you do on guitar. It's just a whole different approach, and I really enjoyed. Like I wrote a couple gospel tunes on piano for for Small World, So Little Kindness, you know that tune. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not a great song or anything, but it's a pretty cool song. It's a gospel tune, you know. So those kind of songs that you write on piano, it's like a whole different. The songs just turn out different. It's pretty cool. So I like to do that. So yeah, there's probably 20 more that I can't remember.
I had a question about, you were talking earlier about the mixes and maybe you were not happy with some of the things. You guys, if I'm not mistaken, self-produced a lot of the tunes, right?
We did, yeah.
How much involvement did you have with like Clear Mountain and those guys on the record finishing part?
So for me, by the time Clear Mountain got a hold of it, I wasn't really involved in much of that, because Clear Mountain, you know, he's a genius. I mean, you don't mess around with Clear Mountain. You just, you know, he just does what he does. So I didn't really have a lot to say. I mean, what am I going to say to Bob Clearmountain? I think it needs more compression, you know? I mean, you know what I mean? I'd be an idiot. You just go, you do whatever you do, you know? But I think Johnny, you know, Johnny was a little bit more knowledgeable about, you know, recording the nuts and bolts of recording, you know, how to apply compression and you know just gains and stuff like that. You know, I mean, he would get involved, and Huey was involved in it a little bit. Huey was probably the main guy that was in there making decisions about levels and stuff. But when it came down to the actual mixing of it, we just let Clear Mountain just go to town because he's so good. I mean, everything that he touches sounds great. The guy's a genius. He's arguably, well, he's one of the top 5 mixers in the world. Him and Mark Needham. And I don't know who else. Probably, I don't know. I don't even know because I don't know a lot of mixers. I'm a guitar player. I don't know much. So, but yeah, Clear Mountain's great. So yeah, Huey would go in there and he'd be involved in it, and Cola would be in there too. But I didn't have much to tell Bob Clear Mountain. I'm just a guitar player. So.
Cool. Final call for questions. Anybody? All right, cool.
Thanks
yeah,
for
we got to kind of wrap. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.